Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Arsenal Cannon Podcast Extravaganza. This is episode 123, I think. The season is over. It's all done. It's dusted. And it almost got me emotional after the game. We'll get into it because the game was sort of a... What's the word? It was a bit of a nothing affair. It felt like a pre-season game, to be honest. It was a bit redundant given the circumstances. We'll get into the game, but we're going to focus largely on how we felt about this season and how we connected with the season, how it was as a fan, because I think it's a good time to reflect on that when we've just played the last game of the season that didn't really mean all that much, even though it was a very enjoyable game. Of course, I'm joined by, as you can see in your screens, because we are now on YouTube, Rob, Bob, Bert, Bobby, the man with a versatile name. What are you saying, Bob?
I am saying that I am well, thank you, Alfie. I'm just at the end of my first year at uni, and I've finished all my exams. I've just started a new job, which I'm actually doing with Alfie. We're lucky enough to be working for Lad Bible, for the Sport Bible pages, writing about just transfer news. So, and we're getting paid for it, which is huge for us. It's sort of, what we've always wanted to do, and it means that we get to sort of do what we want to do as a job, as our summer jobs as well over the summer, which is just great news. And yeah, keep an eye out for our content on there. It's pretty short stuff, so it's not quite as analytical as you'll see on We Love You Arsenal, but we'll be working every day for that site, which is just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to this podcast. As you say, it'll be nice to sort of speak as a fan rather than sort of analytically as we usually do. I think it's important that we take that viewpoint for this podcast because it's been a roller coaster ride of a season. But as a fan, I've got to say that I've absolutely loved it. I feel more connected to Arsenal than I have in years. And this is a great squad, a great manager, or, just a manager that I feel connected to. So yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah. And as you said there, the Sport Bible thing, I want to thank everyone that has ever listened to this show and followed the pages and that, because I'm not saying they've made that happen, but they obviously, the fact that we have an existing audience has allowed us to get into the position where a company like Sport Bible can see we have, some level of talent at doing this. So thank you to all of you guys. And yeah, big up. And yeah, we might as well jump straight into it. If you can't tell, I'm picking up a bit of a cold. Typical. If Danny was on, who'd
always ill.
he'd mock my immune system in some jokey way.
But Daniel is ill too. That's actually why he's not on.
Exactly. That is why he's not on. He's got COVID.
Man. Yeah.
He's got COVID quite badly. So I hope he gets well soon, Danny. Don't want you needing an iron lung.
Lots of love, Dan.
Not an iron lung. No one has an iron lung in this day and age, but whatever. Yeah, get well soon, Danny. And Mac couldn't hack it again. Twice in a row he just couldn't hack it. Yeah, so it's just the English lads today. But anyway, 5-1, beautiful day out in the sun. The miracle didn't happen. Norwich, quite predictably, absolutely fell apart.
Oh, Norwich.
Yeah. For me, it was a really nice day. I've been lucky enough to go to quite a few of the games this season, travelling up from Brighton. And it was quite a special day because I went, and after the game, I went to the Tollington, which is something I've been doing pretty much every game this season. I've spent a lot of money in there, unfortunately, on pints. And I bumped into the absolute legends that are Andrew Mangan, Arscast or Arsblog, Elliot Smith from Arsenal Vision, Tim Stillman, and Paul. I don't actually know his surname, but he was really nice. They were all absolutely lovely. And for someone that's um, that is trying to do basically what they do, and I'd say they're the goats of the Arsenal podcasting scene. To meet them in person and them to be very down to earth. Yeah, it was just really nice, and that was a very nice moment for me for that to come at the end of this season. Rob, talk to me about your experience this season as a fan, how connected you feel right now, and just generally, I don't know how many games you've been to this season. I know it's been fewer because you've been all the way down in Exeter, but yeah, just talk to me about it.
Yeah, I mean, from that perspective, it's been a slightly stranger season being so far away because obviously we've had the COVID seasons, but the sort of before that, I was going pretty much every week and I was absolutely loving it. I think I only managed to get to 3 or 4 games this season at the end, and from that perspective, disappointing. But from the perspective of just being an Arsenal fan, I have absolutely loved every second of it. Apart from obviously the angst towards the end of the season, which was gut wrenching because we got so close to what we were dreaming of all season. But aside from that, it's just been so nice to support a team who care about playing for Arsenal. A group of super, super likable lads who just understand, I think, what it means to play for a club of this stature, from the goalkeeper to the striker. Aaron Ramsdale was a breath of fresh air at the start of the season, and his form dipped, but his passion is still there. And then you go up front to Lacazette, who had a shit season at the end of the day, but he's sort of mentored the lad so well, despite his own personal failings in front of goal. It's been such a likable squad, and mistakes were made along the way. We've had a few really, really bad moments, but the support hasn't wavered. And I've only been 2 or 3 times, but I feel like the Emirates atmosphere is the best it has ever been. Every week since the start of this season, apart from perhaps the Brighton game, it seemed on the television, it seemed a bit flat. But apart from that, I really can't think of many games where the atmosphere was flat. It's been fantastic. And that is just a testament to the club, to Mikel Arteta, to the Emirates Stadium staff. We've got a song now, which is really cool, and it seems like people are getting on board with that. And it's just been such a pleasure to be an Arsenal fan this season, and that hasn't been the case in recent years. So it's really refreshing.
Yeah, I've said it a few times recently. This has been by far and away my most enjoyable season as an Arsenal fan to follow. You're right. You seem to have paused on the screen. Little technical glitch. You have something
It's
to
just
say.
a glitch. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Accidentally pressed that.
Yeah,
but
we're using this new
still
software, and Rob's just put his hand up in the thing. Yeah, this was been by far and away my favourite season for a while to follow as a fan. Obviously, we've had better seasons. We finished in the top 4. We've won trophies. But for me personally, this was the first season where I felt I had the full match day experience as like an adult in a way in my adult life. I was following Arsenal. I'm only 21. So when I turned 18, I was finishing my A-levels. There was 2 months left of the 18-19 season under Emery. And then the start of the 19-20 season, I was in my gap year. And I went to games, and I went straight back home because I live pretty close to the Emirates in North London. And then COVID happened, and then we didn't go for a year and a half. And then this season, we went back, which was already quite emotional when I was at the Chelsea pre-season game, actually. And then we started going again this season, and it's been completely different. I've had the full match day experience of being able to go to pubs before and after, having a lot of beers, which has been very enjoyable. and just having that full match day experience, feeling more part of the community, has been, it's that community feeling. If they're talking about an Arsenal vision, it extends more than just the final game of the season. Rob's had some technical glitches. He's muted me. Okay. Um, yeah, there's been some technical glitches. I've been very distracted by this. What was I saying? Yeah, they were saying an Arsenal vision. Obviously, the result is paramount, but when you are going to games, and even the online discourse, like if you're not living in the UK and not going to games, it feels like it runs beyond the result. Like it is a form of escapism that we all go to, and this season has been the best. Wait, stop this recording when you stop speaking. Okay. Didn't need to read that, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what those guys say. I think that it's been such a community feel around Arsenal this season. I think that the negatives within the fan base are growing few and far between. People are recognizing that these people are just looking for clicks, but the overwhelming majority of Arsenal fans seem together, regardless of sort of what you believe. They're just happy to support the club. It doesn't matter whether you support Arteta or don't like Arteta or like Xhaka or don't like Xhaka. It doesn't matter anymore. Everyone is behind the same cause, and as I've said before, that is just so refreshing because it hasn't been like that as an Arsenal fan. As I said, my matchday experience hasn't really gone as far as yours has in terms of going to pubs after games and things, but when it was sort of going to the matches, the atmosphere at the ground wasn't like that. It was often toxic. You could tell that a lot of players weren't liked, and I just don't get that impression anymore. Obviously, we still have players who aren't perfect, but the fans will support them, and that is all that sort of the players can ask for, and all that we can sort of hope for as fans. It's just a lovely experience, really.
Yeah, I would second that. And as you mentioned there, and this is something that Tim said again, referencing Arsenal Vision, because it is the GOATed podcast, and I'd steal all my ideas from them. Tim said on Arsenal Vision, he's someone that has been going to home and away games for years, and he goes to pretty much all of them. And he said the feeling, and I noticed this when I was going to home games a few years ago before the pandemic. It was so toxic in the later reigns, as you said there, later stages of Wenger's era and even the Unai Emery era. It was so divided within the stadium. It was almost horrible to be at times. Like, it just wasn't a nice feeling. There was a sense that the club was not heading in the right direction at any point. Whereas this time, that is completely different. As you said, there's unity, and I think you can compartmentalize enjoying the matchday experience and being part of the community and being satisfied with the season. Like, you can still have very critical thoughts of the season, whilst celebrating wins and celebrating enjoying yourself at the match day. For example, Elliot used this sort of analogy. The Everton fans, after the game or during the game, they after Odegaard scored the fifth, about 10 seconds later, they leapt up, and it was like they'd scored a goal because they had heard that Liverpool had scored. They're 5-1 down on the last day of the season. They've had a shocking season. They're 16th. Everton should be nowhere near that. They've just survived a few days before that final day of the season, the second last game of the season. They've just secured their safety. They were in a relegation battle that they should never have been in. Yet they're deriving joy from Liverpool's misery. Liverpool have had a brilliant season still. And I don't blame them, because when you're following football, what is the point in being so negative and miserable all the time? You've got to derive joy from small things. Like, it sort of almost comes back to that season when Leicester won the league and we bottled it. And that was a disappointing season from an Arsenal standpoint. We came second. It seems mad to say second was disappointment now. But we finished above Spurs on the final day of the season, and when Spurs collapsed at Newcastle, and there was such a negative reaction about Arsenal fans celebrating that, and people saying it's accepting mediocrity. No, it's deriving joy from your rivals slipping up. If you can't enjoy that, then what's the point in watching football?
Yeah,
Sorry, that
yeah,
wasn't a
there isn't.
question, but
No, I know it wasn't, but I just thought it would be a good time to interject and sort of say as well how I think this has impacted the players as well. I think they feel more united. They all seem to be talking about it quite a lot. The fact that they feel more connected with the fans. Bukayo Saka put up a really nice post the other day of him with a buzzing Emirates crowd in the background, and that was really pleasing to see. And I also think of funny because they're two games that we lost, but two games really stand out for me. It's first of all the Man City one. I think of previous seasons when we've played Man City at home and the stadium's been half empty. That was not the case on New Year's Day at midday. There was clearly an opportunity for people not to turn up, but people went and they were happy to support the team. In fact, it was bloody bouncing in there. And then Liverpool at home as well. Again, a game which fans in the past have been reluctant to attend. And the stadium was full to the brim. There's a belief in this team. There's a belief in this club. There's a belief that you can go on any match day and still enjoy yourself. And I think that's the main point that we're getting at here, that the culture, the atmosphere, you know that if you go to watch an Arsenal game, you might walk away with a sour taste in your mouth regards to the result, but you can look back and think, wow, that was an experience. I really enjoyed in it. And even if we did lose, it was worth going to that game today, which, just in the past, it hasn't been the case. I remember the last days of Emery. I went to a game where I had pretty bad tonsillitis and we played Southampton at home. We ended up getting an equaliser in the last minute and no one celebrated. And I was like, why the bloody hell did I go to that game? There were miserable times, but they seem to be in the past now, which is really good news.
Yeah, we've come so far from then with regards to all these, emotional things. And it is just, it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of beautiful, isn't it? The community that can be derived from people just having a passion for one thing. The amount of friends I've made through Arsenal, the likes of you, Mac and Danny, online, this online community, and then it transfers into in person. And it is just very nice. And people from different backgrounds and countries and stuff. And I know this is getting almost quite deep, but this is the point of this is what I wanted to reflect on as the season came to a close. Because even though as much as we might be frustrated with elements of the season, and also very positive about elements of what happened on the pitch, I just wanted to point out to everyone and to sort of reflect that it goes beyond that. And yeah, if you want more of the sort of analytical stuff, we're going to have a full season review podcast hopefully within the next week or so. Hopefully with all four of the boys, and hopefully a drunk cast, so that will come. I will also have like squad building stuff, transfer stuff on the YouTube channel, so don't worry about that. But let's talk about the football, the game that actually happened. We went into it obviously hoping there was going to be an absolute miracle from Norwich. I was praying Pookie pulled something out the bag. Unfortunately, the first time I checked my phone to check the scores, Spurs were already 1-0 up. I think Kulusevski scored in the 24th minute or something. And then we scored not too soon after. The atmosphere started off great. As always this season, the Ashburton Army in the away end was absolutely exceptional. Big up those fans and big up the injection of youth into the Emirates this season, because it's really helped the atmosphere. I don't want to dismiss the older fans, but I do think having new voices within the stadium, new passionate fans who really want to make the Emirates more a fortress, has helped the atmosphere. And yeah, it started off brilliantly, and then it went a bit flat after we heard that Spurs had scored. It was like, oh, okay, the miracle's not going to happen here. But then as soon as we scored the first, it sort of transcended into a very much it felt like a pre-season friendly. Clive said on the Arsenal Vision that it felt like the Emirates Cup, and it sort of did. It had that sort of vibe. I don't think there's too much we can say tactically into this game because it was an Everton side that really did not give a shit. They were safe. They looked very much on the beach at that point. It was sort of the relief and the energy they put into that Palace game, into this game. They were just sort of didn't care, and they were appalling. But we played some nice football, and it was a carnival atmosphere. Thoughts overall on the day and the game?
Yeah, it certainly came across like that through the screen, which I think is good that no one sort of got too down about the fact top four was gone because Spurs scored. I think we turned it into our own day of sorts. And we played well. We played really well. It was a shame that we couldn't have played like that. And I know it was a poor Everton side, and I know that they practically let Martin Odegaard purr in that midfield. And obviously Newcastle didn't do that. But it was a really nice day to see some of the players who have given a lot to us this season sort of enjoying their football. Some of the key figures like Gabriel and Martin Odegaard, Granite Xhaka, Bukayo Saka, Eddie Nketiah of late, Martinelli, they all had really stellar performances out there. And you're right, it felt like the Emirates Cup. For God's sake, we were wearing the new kit as well. It was just so Emirates Cuppy. But yeah, a really positive day to be an Arsenal fan, even though we missed out on our goal at the end of the season. But yeah, so many positives to take away, and it seemed like a lot of fans stayed in to watch the lap around the stadium at the end of the game, which is really positive. And I agree with you on that point with regards to youth. You know, when the camera sort of spans around the stadium, you just see loads of young people. And as you say, that's not a slight against older supporters, but there's a new passion which has come into Arsenal Football Club thanks to those fans. It's natural for young people to be passionate about things, and good on the club for giving young supporters the opportunity to go to games, because especially for sort of under 18s, under 16s, you can get the tickets at a really good price, and that's not a sort of a policy that the club tend to follow universally. So good on the club for giving the fans such opportunities to attend games.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just nice. It had that nice carnival atmosphere. I was there with my girlfriend, which was nice. It was her second game. Her first game was the horrific 0-0 draw with Burnley in January. It's not the greatest
I
first
forgot
game.
I was about to mention that was also a very flat atmosphere, that one.
It was, yeah. That was my first. That was her first game, and then this was obviously
much better.
It was much better, and she really enjoyed it, even though it didn't have. There wasn't much on it. We might as well go through the goals quickly, and maybe you'll mention some individual performances. The penalty is 100% a penalty. The chance towards the chance towards Iwobi were quite funny with the chanting. He's one of our own. Felt a bit sorry for him because he's had a difficult season, and I like him. But at the end of the day, his transfers basically paved the way for Bukayo Saka in the squad. Martinelli dispatched it. I thought Bukayo Saka would take it, but clearly they see Martinelli as a potential penalty taker. He was supposed to take the one at Chelsea. That's what Arteta said. But then Saka stepped up in the moment. Martinelli, 6th goal of the season. I thought he had a good game. Second goal, Eddie Nketiah. It's a classic Nketiah goal on potentially his last game of the season. Anything you want to say on that?
I mean, I know that you've been pretty vocal about the fact that we shouldn't just make a knee-jerk decision based on a few performances, but I think he looks a different player to the one that we've seen play for the club in recent years. And even if he doesn't stay, I'm really delighted that he's had this little period in the team where he's shown us what he's got, and he'll be an asset to whichever club he goes to. I think he has enough to offer us to be a forward at the club next season. I think he's versatile enough to do that. I think he has the quality. So yeah, I'd be sad if Eddie left the club, but it would also be quite nice to see him leave on a high, because his Arsenal career has been difficult. He's only just getting the run he deserves now. Let's face it, I think Arteta made a mistake not playing him more. We all thought he wasn't good enough, but Arteta would have been able to see in training that there's a player in there. So yeah, it's a shame that he's only had sort of one run in the team over his time at the club, but really a classic Eddie goal. But I think he's taken other goals really well. I think of the goal against Leeds, what a finish that was on his weaker foot. So yeah, I'll be sad to see the back of him if he goes, and part of me really does hope he stays.
Yeah, I don't, but we won't get into that now. I've said that previously. Yeah, this goal, it was a classic Eddie goal. The way he reacts, I think, is very good. He actually does very well to divert it with a quick flick of the head, because it comes at him quickly. Yeah, I just don't think there's much to say about the game at the first half. I mean, we just dominated completely. Obviously, slight drawback, I guess, or annoying.
We were never keeping a clean sheet with that
exactly.
with that defence.
The last clean sheet we've kept was, of course, that game at Aston Villa before the international break. And Donny van der Beek, I mean, I actually forgot he was at Everton on loan. He came on in this game, didn't he? And by the way, I loved the reaction Dele Alli was getting
pretty early.
Yeah, he came on.
Oh, that's brilliant. And the words Granite Xhaka was having with him, fantastic.
Yeah. And he had a terrible game, like most of the Everton players. Calvert Lewin pulling it back for Van der Beek, tapping. We just switched off. But to be fair, it was at the end of a half. We completely and utterly dominated. We could have been a few goals up. I think we ended the game with over 4 XG. I guess if you minus the penalty, which, delighted me as a XG nerd. One thing I did want to mention, which relates to the Everton goal, Dominic Calvert-Lewin obviously been heavily linked. We're not going to speak too much about transfers on this because we'll be doing a lot of that in the future. But what did you make of his performance? Because I think a lot of Arsenal fans said they were just watching Calvert-Lewin because, there was nothing else particularly they wanted to watch.
Really good question. I really liked the performance, actually. I thought he offered a lot more than just what he's often accused of being, which is just a target man. I think he linked up play excellently for Everton. He got an assist, which, came from some good feet in the box. I was really, really impressed, actually. I liked what he offered. I'm not going to say, go and get him based off that performance, but he's had a strong end to the season. He's actually come out today and said that he's been suffering with mental health issues this year, which I don't think we can underestimate the impact that's going to have on a player's ability to perform on the pitch. So yeah, I would be, and there's a lot of people averse to this one. We've actually just recorded a video about Yuri Tielemans, haven't we? And a lot of people are averse to that. But again,
subscribe.
If we could, yeah. But if we could get Calvert-Lewin and another striker, he would be such a great option off the bench. They spoke on Arscast about sort of Arteta looking to recreate the old Wenger approach of a tall guy and a short guy. And yeah, why not? And I think Calvert-Lewin is more than just a tall guy. So why not? I think he'd be really good for us, and I was impressed with him on at the weekend.
Yeah, I think athletically he's outstanding. Like his leap, his jump it's insane. He might be up there with, we talk about Cristiano Ronaldo's leap, some of the goals he's scored, the headers. But Calvert-Lewin's, like the way he gets up is extremely impressive. And I thought he's fucking bulky as well. He looks in very good shape. And yeah, he had some good movement there. His movement is excellent in general. I think his link-up play is better than people give him credit for. I do have reservations, and I would definitely not be getting him as our first choice, as I think as a second choice plan B option, or a sort of rotation. If we had Jesus and Calvert Lewin, you could use Jesus out wide sometimes. Bringing Calvert Lewin off the bench is a good option. Sort of go more direct if you want to vary your game plan a little bit. But yeah, I've said that multiple times. I think it's going to be harder now. Everton have stayed up with the price tag. Anyway, second half, pretty much more of the same. I think we weren't quite as creative, but we were much more clinical with our finishing. Cedric Suarez bags on hopefully his last appearance for the club. I know you've written an article today, which is going to be my plug right now. Go and watch that. Read it. Sorry, about the players who might be on their way out this summer, and Cedric features first on that list. He buries it. Elliot and Arsenal Vision joked that it was a cross, but let's give him his credit. It was not a cross. It was very, very nice corner routine. Another goal from a corner. Another example of Nicholas Yova. That's his name. The set piece coach. Another example of his great work. Saka playing that ball across. Cedric thrashing it in. 3-1. Anything to say on the goal?
No, another really well taken goal. The second of the day to come from a set piece, as you say. We have come leaps and bounds, come forward leaps and bounds as regard to offensive and defensive set pieces. Let's hope that it can continue into the future. There's no guarantees, but it was, really, really good. Well taken goal from a man who we give a lot of stick. And I'm not going to stop giving him stick because he scored a goal. He's shit. But yeah, good for him to have his moment on his last game for Arsenal.
Yeah, I thought this was a better performance from him, but I mean, that's not saying that much. But I mean, as much as pretty much everything he did was still a cross. He was obsessed with the crossing. He was quite nice in some of his passing. He was quite progressive, and of course, he got the goal. Fourth goal a few moments later. Gabriel, 5 goals this season, which is really useful. To have a centre back that can chip in for a few. We had Koscielny, who did that for a number of years. You could rely on him to get 3, 4, 5 a season. And Gabriel, he seems to position himself well in the box. He's a threat in the air. And Cedric, goal and assist. He threads it through. It's definitely not a scuffed shot into the path of Gabriel. And then Begovic showed that he's about 68, with not great shot stopping there. I don't know if he thought Gabriel would produce a better finish, and it sort of sent him the wrong way in a way, and then he sort of dived beyond it. I don't know. But 4-1, VAR check, goal given, dreamland at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And a neatly taken goal from Gabriel with his feet. I think might be the first goal he scored with his feet for the club. I think it's otherwise just been headers. So yeah, good finish from him.
He scored actually with his feet against Wolves at Molineux from about 2 yards out.
He did. Yeah. But the first sort of finish he's had to provide for the club with his feet. And then on to the fifth, I'll just transition. My favourite goal of the day. What a finish. Just the little silky little fake shot. Sent the defender to the cleaners, and such a gorgeous way to slot it into the corner as well. I mean, he was oozing on Sunday, was Martin Odegaard. I think he's been getting quite a bit of stick lately, perhaps deserved somewhat, but teams have been targeting him. But yeah, he responded really well at the weekend and delivered a captain's performance. And who knows, maybe that captaincy will be permanently his in sooner than we might think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. And yeah, beautiful goal. And he was so good.
I'm just going to switch off on my light, everybody, because it's getting quite dark in here. Just so
yeah,
you're not
I've noticed that.
taken aback.
I should probably do that as well. When you're speaking, I'll get up and do that. Beautiful. For the audio listeners, I don't know. whatever.
You're missing
Yeah,
out.
yeah, you're missing out. You are. Just go over to YouTube. If you've got your view on Spotify, go over to YouTube and find whatever your minute you're at. Odegaard was brilliant. And I think it is quite easy for this sort of sunny day at the Emirates to produce a good performance. But as you said after the Newcastle game, when Odegaard purrs, Arsenal purr, and today or on Sunday he was purring and he was brilliant. Some of his touches, the way he links the play from the deeper players midfield to the attacking players, the way he progresses the ball. I think he was produced some insane progressive passes and progressive carries numbers for that game. And yeah, he's a joy to watch. And if we're going to do anything next year, it's going to involve him heavily. And I do think we need to bring in someone who can slightly ease that burden. I know Smith Rowe could potentially do it, but they're very different players. And yeah, it was a nice day. One more player I did want to speak about very briefly. And the reason I want to speak about him is because we know everyone in this team. We know what Xhaka's going to produce. We know what El Neni's going to produce. I think we know what Odegaard and Saka are at this point as players. The rest of the team is Nuno Tavares. I don't think we know what Nuno Tavares is yet, and well, we know he's chaotic. We know he's fun, but we also know he can produce heart attacks. As I wrote a few weeks ago, chaos in the midst of serenity. Which is actually a quote from a Twitter account, which I used, but I did cite him, so it's fine. He is, he's mental. I mean, I hope he stops fucking skying it from about 40 yards out with his right foot, like getting it into row Z. But I thought he played well in this game, and I think the perception of him is just mental. Like, I think it's become kind of insane the way some people have sort of perceive him now. Some Arsenal fans laughing at him like he's the next Andre Santos or something, because he had a few dodgy games in a row as a 21-year-old fullback in England in his first season with very few minutes. Like, I know he's pretty much the same age as Saka, maybe slightly older, but he's significantly less experienced in terms of minutes played. If you look at Folarin Balogun, for example, he's older than Bukayo Saka, but Bukayo Saka's obviously more experienced with the experiences he's had. We need to think about Nuno Tavares. I know he's slightly more experienced than someone like Balogun, but we need to think about him more in that sort of mould, more in that sort of breadth of young player. And I think there's a role for him next year. And I don't know why all of a sudden we've all written him off because of a few dodgy games in a row. And don't get me wrong, there's so much about his game that he needs to improve. But there's also so many good raw attributes that we saw on display in this game. The way he drives to midfield, inside and up the pitch at times is something Tierney can't offer us. And I just think we need to... He should be a part of our squad next season. That's my opinion. I know we've been linked to Aaron Hickey from Bologna, and I see why. I see logic behind that, but I personally would like to see Nuno Tavares play football, and I thought he was good in this game, play football for us next season. Any thoughts on Tavares, Rob?
Yeah, I find it strange that the Athletic report this morning suggested we would be moving for... Well, I'll wait for Alfie to come back so he can hear me. But I did find it strange this morning that the Athletic report suggested we would be looking to sign a right back instead. We wouldn't be looking to sign a right back. You've completely flustered me. Let me restart.
Sorry. Yeah, there was too much of a glare from the light.
I know.
I know. Doing that down was just making it pitch black. So
anyway, I was just saying that I was surprised this morning that the Athletic report said we'd be more interested in signing a left back like Hickey or a left-sided central defender than we would a right back, because at least you can somewhat sort of cultivate Tavares. You can turn him into something, whereas like Cedric, he's done. Like, there's just no point. And there's been times this season where Nuno has just been an adequate understudy to good old Kieran Tierney, who, we all know he has his injury issues. Like, start of the season, I just feel like everyone's forgotten that. And I don't really understand why. Like, people don't forget it with Ramsdale. Everyone's sort of like, oh, but look at the start of his season. He was fantastic, but he's been a bit below par in the second half of the season. With Nuno, that's gone out the window, and he's all of a sudden incapable of being an asset to this team. Like, all you have to do is look at his physical profile to see that he can be a player that we can make into something really pretty good. I mean, people at the start of the season, and even when we signed him, were sort of thinking, yeah, he'll probably challenge Tierney in a few years once he's gathered some experience, which is crucial, as you touched upon. And I don't understand why that sort of goes out the window. I think we could still look at signing a player like Aaron Hickey, because he is very two-footed, so he can go across and play at right back when needed. And he's also more of a Tomiyasu type profile, so you could even play Hickey and Tavares together. He offers a lot, Hickey, so I hope that we still do pursue that deal. But yeah, I think that the conversations, the discourse around Tavares has been somewhat sort of taken to the extreme with regard to that he's now all of a sudden an awful footballer. So yeah, I hope that he does stay and that he's given opportunities. I think the Europa League will be a great platform for him to use to progress as a footballer. And I agree with you. I think he's a really interesting profile, a very unrefined player who needs a lot of work, but I don't think it's a project that Mikel Arteta should be disregarding.
I completely agree. And I don't think he will. I think he will play a role next season. That's my early prediction. I'm going to try and pull us closer to the end just because the lighting situation is quite dire in my room now. We are recording quite late for us. Unfortunately, my uni room is not blessed with a lamp, and I haven't been asked to invest in one. So I've literally just got the main light or natural light from the window. If you're listening to audio, you literally don't care. So sorry. Yeah, I guess there's not an awful lot more to say. There is something more I do want to speak about briefly. But just because I think there wasn't too much to this game, we've spoken about the connection at the start of the season and our sort of experience as fans this season at the start of the podcast. We've spoken briefly about the game. I did want to mention a few more things. We'll touch on you touched on it already, and we will touch briefly on the lap of honour or whatever, and some of the elements of that. But first, I want to touch quickly on the Granite Xhaka substitution. It probably means nothing. It probably just means they just wanted to take him off, give Sambi a run out, keep El Neni on for the full game, because El Neni's stamina, and also it could be his last game. It's probably not. I mean, we've basically had it confirmed that he's staying. Did you read anything into that? Do you think maybe it was to give him an applause, a send off before he departs in the summer, because he never gets subbed?
Yeah, he's not a player who struggles with fitness, so I suppose it was a bit weird. And there was an article last week in The Athletic sort of discussing whether now is, and we seem to say it every summer, but maybe now that he's repaired his reputation, he wants to move on, and maybe now is that time. But I don't think it is. I think he can be he will be so important to us next season. I don't think Mikel Arteta is ready to part ways of a player of his importance. Come on, I'm just going to say he's our bloody captain at the end of the day. Even if he doesn't have our armband, he is the team's captain. Yeah, like, I don't think that's the sort of player that's going to disappear just as a project is beginning to really take off. I just think it was to give Sambi some minutes and let Xhaka enjoy the day, and it was really touching to see him post a photo on Instagram of him and his family. I mean, I tweeted, who would have thought that 18 months ago, that we'd see him smiling on the pitch with his wife, Leonita, who was sent so much abuse, and death threats to him and his children. Who would have thought that we'd come full circle? It's just absolutely fantastic news. And I'm absolutely delighted for Granite Xhaka. I also tweeted a few days ago that he's quickly become one of my more sort of liked players. I think that he's really done a lot for his reputation. I thought his interview with the Players Tribune was just so important. I thought that he spoke well after the Newcastle game, despite being a bit reactive. And yeah, really impressed with him. And I hope that he sticks around for next season.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and I think he will. I think he might have been more likely to go if we'd made the Champions League, because he's like, that's me done. I've achieved something, and I'm going to end it here. But I think he wants to go out on achieving something. He came into the club, and his first season was the first season we didn't qualify for the Champions League, and he wants to sort of go full circle and do that. And I think he'll be here next season. I think it was just a substitution at the end of the day. I've decided to turn my light on because you literally just couldn't see me at that point, and there's the little glare from the light coming into the corner, so you're just gonna have to deal with that. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to live with it. The other thing I wanted to briefly talk about was, of course, the walk around the pitch. You mentioned earlier the fans staying to show their appreciation. They may not be happy with the outcome of the season, but they can appreciate the progress we've made. And I'm not going to get into the narrative of the season because that is going to be for the full review pod that we'll do. And this is about Everton and the day and the experiences of the season. But a few things. Lacazette entourage was out. He had about 50 members of his family / friends wearing the 9. We saw the classic kids running around playing football. There's obviously like the 10-year-old who sort of hogs the ball, dribbling past, and there's that 2-year-old who's running past. He's about 1 foot, just getting flattened. It's pretty funny. We saw players who had no idea who had kids. I don't know if they were their kids, to be fair, but like Ben White has kids.
I think it was his nephews, but I'm not sure.
Is it? That makes a lot more sense. And even like Ramsdale, I think, was carrying someone around, and he definitely does not have kids. But yes, it was a nice moment. Pepe, it did look like he was going. He was taking pictures in the middle of the pitch with his family. I think basically what we can infer from perhaps the goodbyes and stuff was that Lacazette and Pepe had definitely gone. I was actually in the Tollington after I've said that. But Lacazette drove past the Tollington in his Ferrari and waved at everyone. So I think they're both gone. I think Cedric's possibly gone. He was having a little bit of an emotional goodbye as well. It felt to me. Some people saying Nketiah's goodbye wasn't as emphatic as you'd expect. Maybe we're reading too much into this, but it's all we're going off at the moment because the manager's not really giving anything away. Any final thoughts on that lap of honour?
No, nothing much more to add, really. I think you've really summed it up, and it's probably better communicated by someone who was at the game. But yeah, I think it's interesting that those guys perhaps appeared more emotional. Interesting that Nketiah didn't, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. But I think the 3 guys that you mentioned who looked like they were saying their goodbyes were saying their goodbyes. Lacazette's 100% gone. 100%. As for Pepe, he's got a new agent. The club are looking to get rid of him. He'll go, regardless of whether it's a loan with an option to buy or whatever. And I think that's all we can take from it. So I think we can start to wrap this up.
Yeah, I'm assuming you stopped speaking. There's so much of such a lag on this. You did. Okay. There's such a lag. I didn't really get that, but I'm sure it was showing off your wisdom. Yeah. See, it's such a lag. I don't know. Anyway, that is basically that feels like as much as we can say about the Everton game in particular, because this is the Everton game podcast, even though it's a few days later. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave us a review on your podcast platform or leave us a like on YouTube, and subscribe to the YouTube channel because, as I said, we're going to have a lot of stuff, hopefully. So yeah, we need a song for the Spotify and Apple Music listeners, Apple Podcast listeners. What we saying, Rob?
I don't know, something feel
Something
good.
about the end.
I was thinking maybe because we've spoken a lot about atmosphere, the Saka and Smith Rowe song. I like it.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called. I can't remember what the original's called. I think it's just really good because I think that has epitomised the sort of refreshed feeling around the club this season.
Absolutely. We'll do that. And yeah, you'll hear that if you're listening to the podcast. If you're watching it, unfortunately, you can't hear that. It's not an option because of copyright reasons. So sorry, but yeah, it's just the reality of copyright and legal stuff. So I don't know if it's legal. I'm waffling. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Rob. Plug yourself. Marketing opportunity of a lifetime.
I'm going to plug both your and I's work at Sports Bible, which we talked about at the top of the show. Please do go give our stuff a read. We're producing daily content on that site. Literally, if you want to read it, just type in the player's name that we've written about and it comes up straight on Google, which is unreal. And yeah, as I say, I'm pretty gassed about that opportunity. So go check out Alfie and I's stuff on there.
Yeah, 100%. I will also plug that as my marketing opportunity of a lifetime. I'm also going to plug the YouTube channel if you might be watching it, but going to have stuff out on there, and also the We Love You Arsenal Instagram page and WLYA blog on Twitter, and the website weloveyouarsenal.co.uk. There's so many platforms that you can enjoy us from. Rob on Twitter, AFC Blogger 49, and myself on Twitter at Alfie Culshaw. So yeah, follow all of them. And it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure covering the season. We haven't been as consistent as we'd have liked, but hopefully in the off season we'll provide some good content. And thank you all for listening this season. And hopefully we'll get Danny and Mac on because it feels like a while. Well, it feels like a while for Danny at least.
It does.
Any parting words, Rob?
No, just again, thank you for everyone who's tuned in this season. As Alfie said, thank you for sort of reading and listening to our stuff because it's enabled us to get better as journalists and get better opportunities in the workplace. And yeah, thank you for a great season. Looking forward to off-season content and, of course, next season. Stick at it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, and see you later.
Goodbye.